sweet, cold, and fizzy. Kind of like a soda, except you get to feel better than others when you drink it. Also, it's sour and fermented. Fermented sweet tea. It's kombucha. First only made and drunk by hipsters, now still drunk by hipsters, but also your friend who does yoga.
Hello?
For those who don't know, kombucha is a fermented, lightly fizzy sweetened tea created by fermenting sugared tea in what is called a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, or SCOBY for short. It's often consumed for its supposed health benefits. You'll find many claims regarding what it can do online, which range from having antioxidants, reducing heart risk, managing diabetes, protecting against cancer, finding me a girlfriend, curing my depression. I'm not here to talk about any of that though. I'm not a health expert or anything. What I want to know is, where did kombucha come from? Not the actual Japanese kombucha, which, by the way, is an entirely different thing, in which an edible kelp, called Kombu in Japanese, is used to make tea, called cha. Kombucha. Yeah, it's very possible that a bunch of white hipsters who didn't speak Japanese just took the word kombucha and then started using it to describe a completely different thing. Anyways, regarding kombucha's origin, it's hard to say, really. Its story is extremely poorly documented, unlike my emo phase in middle school, and there are conflicting sources everywhere regarding the topic. There's a few legends floating around regarding the drink's origins, generally focused on East Asia. Its origins are variously placed in Manchuria, Siberia, Mongolia, the Yellow River Valley in China, your nearest Whole Foods, your Aunt Brenda's kitchen. The most common story I encountered was that surrounding the infamous emperor, Qin Shi Huang, who unified China in 221 BCE, drinking kombucha, referred to as the tea of immortality, the elixir of life, and the divine zhi. However, I have read that there were no mention of any drinks like these in Qin records, and there certainly is no actual definitive mention of a drink like kombucha. It isn't hard to see why, considering your local organic farmers market didn't exist yet. In another legend, it is the 8th month of the year 414 CE, the 3rd year of the reign of the Japanese Emperor Ingyo, who has a great sickness in the stomach. Luckily for him, a Korean physician by the name of Kombu, well versed in medicine, comes with the perfect cure. You guessed it, gamer girl bathwater, kombucha. The emperor is cured by the drink, which is named after Dr. Kombu. This legend is based off of actual events recorded in the Kojiki and Nihon Shoki, central texts for ancient Japanese history. In 414 CE, a Korean man from the kingdom of Shilla does indeed arrive to successfully cure an ailing Emperor Ingyo, for which he is handsomely rewarded before being allowed to head back home. However, I decided to read the relevant parts of both texts, and there's absolutely no mention of what kind of treatment exactly that the physician gave him. So, it's even possible that no tea was involved at all. There's no specification or description of what kind of illness he had either. Personally, I think he was suffering from a severe case of lingua. Furthermore, while the characters in his name could be pronounced as kon and bu in Japanese, becoming kombu, the version I read has those characters read as komu and mu, respectively. Even if his name was pronounced kombu, I find it highly unlikely that this would be the source of the name of the tea, considering he probably never gave the emperor kombucha. And also because the word kombucha doesn't enter European languages until pretty recently, when I'm assuming the actual Japanese kombucha was already well established in the Japanese language as kombucha. This is also not to mention that the Japanese language has changed significantly between the 400s and the 1900s. In English, the word kombucha isn't even first used until 1944. Also, the story can't be true, because we know the actual cure that was administered was kimchi. Maybe tiger balm. One last legend I saw was the one that repeatedly showed in Chinese records I found. A shop assistant around the Bohai Sea pours water into a jar of sugar. A few days later, he opens the lid and is subject to an irresistible, fragrant yet sour smell. He takes a spoon and drinks, and everyone around him who also smelled it also wants to try. To which the shop assistant obliges, giving everyone half a scoop of the delicious beverage. The shop owner, who never got to try, asks the assistant to remake the drink, which he does, and the owner gets rich off the new recipe. From there, it spreads to the rest of the world by word of mouth, and the shop assistant and his descendants all become socialists. This legend is again probably just a legend. No hard evidence has yet been found of where kombucha originated, like how no hard evidence of pineapple being a bad pizza topping. Kombucha wasn't even definitively recorded for the first time until the 1900s, and not even by East Asians too, but rather by Europeans.
What?
Even for these recent happenings, I found a significant amount of conflicting information, showing how cloudy and mysterious the origins of kombucha anything really is when just searching the internet for information. Kombucha first definitively appears among the Russians, with Russian sources claiming it originated during the 1904-1905 Russo-Japanese War, when Russian troops who were stationed and fought in Manchuria supposedly took it from the Japanese. According to the Russians, the Japanese used it for a variety of things, such as geishas using kombucha to stay slim, although this is not corroborated by the Japanese. However, it has been confirmed that their plumbers used it to slide in and out of green tubes. Although the Russians now call it tea kvass or tea mushroom, they previously called this drink Japanese mushroom, among other things including Chinese mushroom and Manchurian mushroom. What we do know is that from Russia, kombucha became popular in Germany, and later the rest of Eastern Europe, with many Russian and German scientists later conducting research on it, with research on it first published in 1913. It later gained mass popularity in Italy as well, to the point where people were even making songs about it. In the West, it was again often given names connecting it to East Asia, such as with Italians calling kombucha Chinese fungus. A paper I found from the 1960s states that kombucha is popular in Russia, Poland, Japan, Bulgaria, Germany, Manchuria, the East Indies, and Portland, Oregon. However, most of the Japanese sources I've come across state that kombucha didn't achieve popularity in Japan until after 1974, after a woman by the name of Nakamitsu Sumako returned to Japan after a stay in the Soviet Union and published a book called The Healthy Method of Black Tea Mushroom, black tea mushroom being what the Japanese called kombucha. I decided to look into kombucha's supposed origins and popularity in China as well. In 2019, a woman by the name of Laura Zhang wrote while interning for the Smithsonian Institute that she had asked her parents, who are from Fujian and Shanxi provinces, as well as her relatives, if they knew about kombucha. None of them knew.
What?
She asked another intern whose family was from Yunnan. Even after asking around on WeChat groups, no one knew anything about kombucha or anything like it, like how no one knows anything about this YouTube channel. On Baidu Baika, the Chinese version of Wikipedia, it says that kombucha has been around in China for over 150 years. Wait, only 150? Also, where does the number come from? It says the kombucha was taken from Russia to Japan in 1954 by a Russian nurse, from where it spread to the rest of the world. However, it further states that kombucha originated around the Bohai Sea in China. I feel pretty skeptical about all of that though. From what I know, Japan didn't popularize kombucha around the world either. So, what does this all tell us? Perhaps, mostly that no one really knows where kombucha really came from. None of the stories are really grounded in much evidence. The nature of kombucha's origins continues to, and perhaps will, remain a mystery. Personally, I get the feeling that maybe kombucha isn't so ancient, and that it probably originated with Russian settlers or soldiers in eastern Siberia or Manchuria, trying to make something like kvass, a similar fermented drink from Eastern Europe. Likely sometime within the past 300 years or so. Of course, I don't have any hard evidence to actually back this up, so take this with a grain of salt. What are your thoughts? Where do you think kombucha came from? Do you enjoy the drink? Please like, subscribe, and comment below.